There is fresh fallout this morning stemming from the Trump administration's immigration crackdown in Minnesota. You might remember video of an ICE arrest back in January. Officers can be seen bashing open the front door of a St. Paul man's home before bringing him outside at gunpoint. He was wearing just his underwear and a blanket in freezing conditions. Well, now officials in Ramsey County say they are investigating the arrest as a potential case of kidnapping, burglary, and false imprisonment. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins me now with more on this. Julia, good morning. So what more can you tell us about the circumstances surrounding this arrest and what officials are alleging right now in this investigation?
Well, Joe, you just recalled those images that were one of many that were coming out of Minnesota at the time during a surge of both Border Patrol and ICE in January of this year. And of course, when the news came out that this man was an American that ICE had wrongly arrested, we have now heard much more backlash as a result. He is among American. He is an American citizen. And when they took him out of his house when he was obviously not prepared to be leaving his home, there were a lot of questions about what rights ICE had to be entering his home and what precedent that could set for more arrests around the country as ICE started to arrest people who were often not on a list of targeted people with known crimes or known immigration violations, but were suspected to have immigration violations. Now that's kicking up into the latest investigation from the state into those actions by DHS in January. I want you to listen to what the sheriff said about it, and then I'll tell you what DHS is saying.
There are many facts we don't know yet, but there's one that we do know, and that is that Mr. Tao is and has been an American citizen. There's not a dispute over that, and you can ask yourself, as you look at those pictures, is that good law enforcement to take an American citizen out of their home?
And Joe, what DHS is saying about this is that it was not a kidnapping. They're saying that, in fact, this was a case where they had information based on intelligence and surveillance that there was known sexual predators around his property and that they went to the property to try to arrest someone else. And when he was not available or when he did not produce identification or submit to a face ID scan, that was a technology they were using at the time, they had no choice but to arrest him and take them in. So some harsh pushback. Very hard pushback from DHS on this case, calling it a kidnapping. And obviously knowing that if this is determined to be a kidnapping or burglary of some sort, that could open the door to a lot of legal action over other actions DHS took. Because remember at the time, and this continues today, they said they do not need a judicial warrant to arrest someone who has a removal order from the country.
And Julia, this is just evidence of the tensions that played out between federal and local officials in the wake of this immigration operation in Minnesota. We know last month officials in Hennepin County, that includes Minneapolis, sued the administration over access to evidence in the investigations of 3 shootings by federal officers, 2 of which were fatal, got a lot of coverage. Catch us up on where those probes into those killings stand and just the hurdles that state and local officials face in trying to challenge the federal government to get involved in these investigations.
Yes, of course. Well, there are the 2 investigations into the fatal shootings of the U.S. citizens that DHS did begin, but we have not gotten any kind of results from those. And then there's the latest in which ICE had originally said that there was an officer whose life was threatened because he was being pursued by a target, by an immigrant they were trying to arrest, and that he was hit with a shovel, with a snow shovel. And then later surveillance video came out to show that was not the case. In fact, it was the ICE officer pursuing the individual, and those ICE officers have now been put on leave, and ICE says that they could be charged criminally. But in March, in late March, Hennepin County sued DHS to get more evidence. They say that the federal investigators are not being cooperative to hand over evidence and that they don't like that the FBI has taken over these investigations. Typically, Joe, when you have a use of force, use of deadly force, and the feds are involved, whether it's use of force by a local person or by a federal agent, there's a lot of cooperation between local law enforcement and federal as they get to the bottom of what happened. It's a way to hold both law enforcement sides accountable, no matter who is the one involved, and to have extra checks and balances as they review surveillance videos and look into the policies that could have been violated. And what Minneapolis, what Hennepin County is saying is that the feds simply are not letting them come in and be partners in these investigations now.